Amidst all the insane headlines happening in the last few days, you may have missed this, but yesterday it was announced that the Trump administration has made changes to the mandated vaccine schedule for children. We're going to take a look at the implications of that and even what the church handbook says about vaccines in general. A lot of crazy stuff to get into, all this and more. My name is Jackson Wayne Paul, and welcome to Latter Daily Saints.
What power shall stay the heavens from pouring down knowledge from heaven upon the heads of the latter-day saints?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to today's episode. We've got some really fun and I think extremely controversial things to get into. As always, if you're coming here for the first time, Latter Daily Saints, this is a space we're trying to create where we can give you current news and pop culture commentary from a Latter-day Saint perspective. And my name is Jackson Wayne Paul. You're getting my perspective. His name is Brandon Russin.
What's up, guys?
And nothing that we say is an official representation of what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints thinks abroad. But hopefully you can come here, get a Latter-day Saints perspective, and take it with a grain of salt. And yeah, as always, I love to hear your criticisms in the comments because, like we're going to talk about after our featured story, I had the opportunity to get on a phone call with someone that greatly disagreed with our episode that we did last Friday on Zoran Mandani, and I'm going to tell you how that interaction went. It was super fun. But Brandon, before we get into it, actually, what are you doing July 18th to the 27th?
Celebrating my anniversary.
Really?
All of those days.
Happy
I got married on
anniversary.
every single one of those days.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we are hosting a church history tour with Dr. Michael Day. All the information for that can be found in the description, but it's going to be, I think, 9 days, 10 days, 9 nights. We're going to go everywhere from Rochester, New York, down to Nauvoo, everywhere in between. It's going to be really inspiring. And if any of you have seen any of Mike Day's content, you know that he is a wealth of knowledge, and it's going to be a super awesome experience. Hayden and myself are going to be on that. Brandon,
I don't know. I wasn't invited.
Brandon,
So.
you can come. Here's your formal invitation.
Oh, thank you. Live on air.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
They need a videographer. So.
yeah, if you want more information on how to reserve your spot, click the link in the description. Going to be super fun. All right, Brandon, vaccine. I swear that word has taken on a whole new ominous presence over the last 5 years.
Indeed.
Indeed.
I'm getting 2020 flashbacks.
Exactly. And there's a lot that we could get into with this. I myself have had some very personal negative experiences with this in regards to being a service member in the United States Marine Corps. It was mandated that all service members get a vaccine or get kicked out of the military, and they are no longer able to uphold the oath that they made to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's a whole episode for another day. We'll probably touch on some of those things that happened. But this has been a conversation in regards to vaccines that's been happening for a while now. And I want to preface this with a scripture that means a lot to me and I think about often. And it's found in 2 Nephi chapter 32. Brandon, if you want to pull up scripture notes here. In verse 9, and there's many scriptures like it, but this one resonates heavily with me. It says, I say unto you that ye must pray always and not faint, that ye must not perform anything unto the Lord, save in the first place ye shall pray unto the Father in the name of Christ, that he will consecrate thy performance unto thee, and thy performance shall be for the welfare of thy soul. Now, I am a firm believer that not just major, huge decisions in life should be made with counsel in counsel with God, but honestly, if we are to follow the admonition to pray always, I think there's, in some form or fashion, we should always be in some sort of dialogue with our Creator. I don't know, Brandon, how do you kind of interpret that or see that?
I agree. Who was it recently that said, I think you showed a clip of President Holland. No, it was the live stream we did a couple weeks ago where he said the Lord taught him that he needs to be praying more.
Yeah.
An apostle of the Lord needs to be praying more. And he said, pray all the time. Like pray before you leave the house. Pray when you get home, expressing gratitude. that you made it home safely, things like that. And that just kind of opened up my mind, because when I was in the MTC, the MTC, you're taught to pray always as well. And we prayed over everything. And I just remember the power that I felt when I did that, and the revelation that seemed to constantly flow. And I think we get so busy in life now that we forget that we should be, counseling with God at all times, like you said.
Yeah. And so just as it's mentioned in the scriptures a plethora of times, especially I'm thinking of Nephi when he's scolding his brothers that they know not the dealings of the God that created them, because they neither ask not, neither do ye knock. Temple references in there, but ask. If you're not asking questions, you're not going to be receiving answers. Or I don't think that you're going to be at least able to recognize answers and revelation from God if you're not seeking them out. Ask and ye shall receive, knock and it shall be open unto you. And so that's why I think that, and we're going to get into this vaccine thing, but anyone that is discouraging you from asking questions, I disagree with that. I think questions should be asked, not just for the sake of asking questions, but for the sake of seeking answers. Those are two very different things.
Interesting.
Two very different things. Yeah.
You going to elaborate on that a little bit?
I think I'm going to leave that for the audience to ponder. Okay. Then we'll talk about it later during the week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But this debate of should all these vaccines be required, should they not be required, is something that's been happening for a long time now. And one of the first videos that kind of piqued my interest in this, I saw it a number of years ago, I think on YouTube or something, but this is a conversation being had on Larry King with two well-known people in Hollywood that share a concern about the vaccines. And let's just take a look at this and then go into what the Trump administration has now announced.
I don't know what happened in 1990. There was no plague that was killing children, that we had tripled the amount of vaccines.
What happened after 1989?
Why did they?
They warranted 26 more vaccines.
Agreed.
Are all of them absolutely necessary?
Because they want to make money.
Of course.
It's twice as many as anywhere else in 30 countries in the Western world.
But
we give twice as many shots as any of those countries. Why is that?
Well, what are you against? Don't vaccinate for this, but vaccinate for that?
Yes.
I think we have to choose which
How
ones
do
are
we know
absolutely
which
necessary.
one?
You should educate yourself. We want to empower parents to educate themselves. Do we need to have the chickenpox? Do we need the hepatitis B shot on the second day of life?
I don't think we can afford to assume that the people who are charged with our public health any longer have our best interest at heart all the time. Parents have to make their own decisions, educated decisions. They have to look at the information.
Space out the vaccines. Delay them till after 1. Clean out the toxins that are in them. We don't need that many.
Why would a doctor not want to know more about something that could save a life or prevent a disease? I don't understand.
The AAP is financed by the drug companies. Medical schools are financed by the drug companies. This is a huge business. Vaccines are the largest growing division of the pharmaceutical industry. $13 billion.
They control medical schools.
What we're asking is for them to take a loss for the good of our children. That's a tough sell in a boardroom.
Okay.
Bro, why is Ace Ventura educating us on this?
That's the question, right? And so what I see here is some, I think, genuinely concerned people in regards to the increase in the amount of required vaccines when a lot of other countries in the Western world, like Sweden, Finland, Denmark, the Netherlands, they don't have the same requirements. And so, but here's the problem. To become educated on this stuff, then we need to have the information accessible. And so, yes, they're saying a lot of stuff there. Is it all true? I don't know. What it causes me to do is have a great desire to go and do the research so that I can do what's best for my future children. You know what I'm saying? That's the vibe I get from that video. Okay. And I start that to preface this. Donald Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday. He says, today the Trump administration is proud to announce the United States of America's updated childhood vaccine schedule. This schedule is rooted in the gold standard of science and widely agreed upon by scientists and experts all over the world. Effective today, America will no longer require 72 jabs for our beautiful, healthy children. We are moving to a far more reasonable schedule where all children will only be recommended to receive vaccinations for 11 of the most serious and dangerous diseases. Parents can still choose to give their children all of the vaccinations if they wish. and they will still be covered by insurance. However, this updated schedule finally aligns the United States with other developed countries around the world. Congratulations to everyone. Boom, 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 boom. And then it has this interesting graphic here at the bottom, okay? It says European country, 11 injections. United States, 72 injections. Okay, so I look at this and I'm like, okay, 72 injections? That seems like excessive. 11 injections? So basically what has happened here is now there's only 11 diseases that are on the recommended schedule for children to be vaccinated against. But honestly, first thing off the bat, and then we're going to get into what the church handbook says about vaccines. Brandon, when looking at that graphic in the bottom, what's the vibe that you get?
That my kids are going to get jabbed a bunch when they're babies. And I mean, I don't know. That is way more than I thought was happening.
So when I look at that, and then it's changing to 11 diseases now, I think, only 11 shots. Like it shows 11 injections, right?
Okay.
However, that's not an accurate representation, right? There's 11 diseases, but there's around 20 injections, right? And we're going to use the aid of ChatGPT in today's episode. And just like everything that you search up on ChatGPT, I invite you to do the research on what the sources are. I did these searches beforehand, and then I went into the sources in which they're pulling from. I found them all to be credible, but I just wanted to use that little disclaimer so you don't flame me for something popping up here that isn't 100% accurate. The overall arching message of this episode is to go and do your own research and take everything to God in prayer to make decisions that are congruent with revelation, okay? But, Brandon, I want you to do a Google search for what are the 11 diseases.
Google or ChatGPT?
Oh, ChatGPT. What are the 11 diseases that are on the vaccine schedule for 2026. Okay. All right. Okay. Now look up how many injections are required to be vaccinated from these 11 diseases. Boom. All right, here. Because when you see those 72 injections, what's all involved in that is about 17 diseases and then multiple vaccines for flu shots every year up until they're like 18.
So is that what it's factoring in when it says the 72 injections?
Okay. So that makes up about 20 of them. But if we go through here, just look at the bottom. I think it does a total of the summary. Okay, so it says DTaP, 5 injections, covers 3 diseases, IPV, 4 injections, MMR, 2 injections, varicella, 2 injections, HIB, 3 to 4 injections, pneumococcal, dude, people are going to flame me for not knowing how to say these.
Pneumococcal.
4 injections and then 1 injection. So if we just add this up, 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 2 is 11, plus 2, 13, plus 4, 17, plus 4, 21, plus 1, 22. Okay, so it's 22 injections. That's why I think the graphic itself is a little bit misleading because it's not just 11 injections. The 11 diseases require more injections. But one of the things I want to touch on in the video that we watched is hepatitis B. Brandon, are you tracking on what hepatitis B is?
I'm not super educated on this, but I'm pretty sure it's like, isn't it a sexually transmitted disease? Is that close?
That's a good question. Why don't you just do a type?
Okay, I'll type in.
What is hepatitis B?
I really should know this stuff. I have 2 kids.
One of the things, that is heavily debated about whether it's necessary to give our children hepatitis B as soon as they are born. Okay, so
forgive my spelling.
It's fine. ChatGPT will forgive you. What is hepatitis B? It says it's a viral infection that attacks the liver. It's caused by the hepatitis B virus and can be acute or chronic, okay? So it causes scarring, liver failure, liver cancer, a lot of bad stuff. Type in now, how does one get, it says.
Well, there's a section, right here.
It says from mother to baby at birth, sexual contact, sharing needles or syringes, blood to blood contact. Okay. So it says that you can get it from mother to baby at birth, right? But now type, can you pass hepatitis B to your child if you yourself do not have hepatitis B? Okay. All right. Let's see what it says here. Short answer, no. Okay. So
interesting.
What happens is mothers, before they give birth and stuff, they are tested. They get blood tested to see if they have hepatitis B. Now, what it says here is that the Hep B vaccine is required for all children in the United States because to prevent the child from getting hepatitis B in the case of an undetected positive hepatitis B diagnosis for the mother, okay? But then going back, and that it's only really given through sexual contact or sharing needles. It's basically an STD. So the interesting thing to me is that this is required, this is on the vaccine schedule to account for a possible non-diagnosis if a test doesn't bring it up, okay? Now, here's the thing that is brought up in that video is that the underlying reason for all of this is because of greed and money. Brandon, do a search of what was the revenue brought in from the hepatitis B vaccine in the United States in 2025. In 2025. Perfect. Because if you get your vaccine on this schedule, you are guaranteed to make billions of dollars. It says the U.S. market estimate for hepatitis B vaccines alone in 2023 was $2.4 billion. It's expected to grow further by 2032. Well, looking like not, because it's not on the required list anymore. So here's the arguments that are made that children not only do not need these vaccines right as they're born, but that they actually can cause harm when these foreign substances are introduced to babies right out of the womb. Now, whether all of that is true or all of that is false, it's heavily debated. You can look up data and studies that are going to recommend either. But what's interesting to me is that in the European Union, countries like Sweden, Ireland, Finland, they have a schedule that allows for these same 11 diseases to be vaccinated against instead of the big list of 18. And so the biggest thing that I think, if it's so cut and dry on either side, I think they should present the data in a way that is able and easily understood to parents to be able to make correct decisions, right? Because I'll admit, nowadays, it does seem that, for example, in the COVID instance, money was a huge motivation to be able to get those vaccines out. And did it prevent people from getting COVID? No. I know a ton of people that got the COVID vaccine and ended up still getting COVID. Now, before we end up getting in the weeds on all of my very strong opinions on all of that, let's go to the church handbook, shall we, Brandon?
Let's do it.
So, the church handbook on vaccinations, it says, vaccinations administered by competent medical professionals protect health and preserve life. Members of the church are encouraged to safeguard themselves, their children, and their communities through vaccination. Ultimately, individuals are responsible to make their own decisions about vaccination. If members have concerns, they should counsel with competent medical professionals and also seek the guidance of the Holy Ghost. Prospective missionaries who have not been vaccinated will likely be limited to assignments in their home country. Okay, So going back to that verse that I shared in the beginning, Brandon, that we should do all things in prayer unto God so that he may consecrate our performances for our well-being, right?
Yeah.
I think with this whole question of vaccines, what should be given to children, what should be not, should be driven by the data. And like it's saying there, ultimately, we should be able to, one, have access to all the studies and information that will help us to make educated decisions. Two, do the work to seek that out as parents. And three, counsel with God in making these important decisions, because it's a fact there are negative ramifications. Everyone reacts differently to these different vaccines that should be taken into account. It shouldn't be just one blanket mandated thing for all children in the United States. That's my take.
Good information precedes revelation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a quote from President Nelson. Good information precedes good revelation.
Yeah,
what is it?
I mean, I might have butchered it a little bit, but yeah, essentially, you're not going to be handed all the answers on a silver platter. That's why the formula for praying is to ask first, and then to seek an action, and then to knock another action, and the door will be opened up unto you. If you are doing your own research, then you're opening up your mind and your heart to better revelation from the Lord, because the Holy Ghost will use that to, I don't know what the inner workings of the Spirit are, but good information studied precedes revelation. This is probably one of the best cases where you could use that formula.
Exactly. And so here's the thing. Sometimes seeking out that good information can look a little daunting. And what is kind of the vibe nowadays is that research is done by watching an hour of TikTok videos that your algorithm is feeding you on a specific subject that you're interested in. Okay. Or going on X and finding a few different videos on X. Those things can spark our interest to actually dig in and find the data and make educated decisions, but it shouldn't be the end all be all thing that forms our entire opinion around something that is very important, like that of the health of our children.
I don't know if this is the direction that you're going, but this may be a hot take. We have expressed on this channel how much we despise certain facets of AI. Mm-hmm. But I would say personally, AI is fantastic for research if you do what you said earlier and verify it. I mean, just look at ChatGPT providing actual peer-reviewed articles that you can go look at and see the real information in case you're wary about how accurate ChatGPT is or if it's hallucinating. So I think this is just a practical thing you can do, is go look and see if ChatGPT can provide you a summarized list of things you can go check out instead of just kind of starting from scratch. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And so here's the thing. I think, and we've talked about this before, that sin is an archery term meaning to miss the mark. So whether the target's right here's in the middle, if you're missing over here or missing over here, you're still missing the mark. And so saying that all medical professionals shouldn't be trusted, they're all in it for the money, that's not right. Saying, shut up, stop asking questions, just trust all the medical professionals, they have your best interests at heart. I don't agree with that either. And so what we need to do is to take it upon ourselves to not be lazy, to do the work necessary, to do the research and get the good information and go to God to be able to work it out with him. Because ultimately, like it says in the church handbook, it's the individual's responsibility to make the decisions for themselves, and that we should counsel with God and seek answers through the Holy Spirit. So anyone that is discouraging you from asking questions, and a lot of them reasonable questions, I would say, be gone. Go away from me, bro. Because, and then other people that are just coming up with endless asking of questions instead of the endless seeking for answers, that is also concerning as well. And so, yeah, hope that gives you a little insight of my take on it. And I think the reasonable way to go about it, to ask questions and to seek answers from God. Like I said, there's a lot we could get into with my personal experience of, COVID and all that stuff. Maybe we make an episode another day because it's a very interesting story. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is this a movement in the right direction? Just like Donald Trump said, all of the vaccines that were required before are still going to be available for parents to give to their children. And so I think them having the choice to give to their children or not is a great idea, and that we should be provided the good information and studies, not propaganda, but the actual raw data to be able to make educated decisions and ultimately take it to God.
Amen.
I'm excited to see how many people disagree with me in the comments, but I feel like that's a pretty reasonable take. We'll see. We'll see. In 2026, is it the year of absolute disease outbreaks from children not getting the hepatitis B vaccine?
Then we'll know.
We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully not. Anyways, moving on to the next thing that I want to talk about. If you didn't watch our video on Friday, Dave Butler and I did a video talking about how Zohran Mamdani put his hand over the Quran when he swore an oath to serve the people of New York City as the mayor of New York City. I express some concerns that I had with that and with some of the comments that he made, talking about we're going to do away with the frigidity of individualism and embrace the warmth of collectivism, and then saw how much warmth collectivism has brought over the years through communism and socialism. It's about 100 million people dead of warmth. That's just the facts. But which is pretty morbid.
I'm not laughing at the dead people. I'm laughing at the joke.
The unexpected nature of my comments. Yes. But then, as always, what do I say? I say, if you disagree with me, throw it in the comments and let's have a conversation. And there was about 4 or 5 comments that were very staunch in opposition to some of my takes. And what I do, as always, is I get in there and I say, hey, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'd love to hear more of your perspective. Please send me an email at latterdailysaints@gmail.com and let's hop on a call and chat about it.
If we ever miss you in the comments, you are also welcome to DM us.
Exactly,
well.
Exactly. DM us on Instagram at Latter Daily Saints, but please send us an email, because only one of those 5 people took me up on that, and they sent me an email. I sent them my phone number. They shot me a text, and then like an hour later, we got on a phone call, and that phone call lasted for about an hour. And this member was awesome. And I think this sparked a friendship that hopefully lasts a lifetime. I'm not going to share his name, but we'll call him Jake. Okay. So me and Jake, Brandon, we get on a phone call and I said, help me understand exactly what you took issue with the video and my takes about it. And he said, well, I didn't like how it was kind of portrayed that somehow Zohran, being Muslim, is now on a platform that he's seeking to remove religious freedom from people in New York City. And I was like, okay, maybe I can understand where you would maybe get that message. It's not the message I definitely intended to portray to people. And watching it back 4 times now, that's not the message, even trying to put myself in their shoes, that I got. It was a little bit of a forced one. But going in, I found out that he was a good friend, actually a personal friend of Zohran. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And then one of the main things that I shared with him is my concern with him putting his hand over a book that people point to justify some pretty absurd things that are not congruent with our Western Christian values, and then him taking an oath to serve the people of New York City while putting his hand on that book is very concerning to me. And one of those things that I shared in that video on Friday is the way in which the Islamic faith views the age in which a young girl should be married off. Okay? And this is one of the most concerning things of all to me personally, and I'd love to hear your takes. But I just did a search: what age should girls get married in the Islamic religion? And these are Muslim sources here, and we're just going to read this a little bit here. It says on allislam.org. says the age of marriage. It says puberty is a natural phenomenon that occurs of varying ages in different individuals. Research in global human behavior seems to indicate, Brandon, will you take it off blue eye? It's actually hard for me.
Oh, sorry.
It seems to indicate that girls and boys who are born and live in warmer parts of the world are more likely to reach puberty earlier than their peers of colder regions and climates around the world. For example, blah, blah, blah. Basically, they reach puberty. And it says, however, reaching the age of puberty should not be considered as the only criteria for deciding on an appropriate age for marriage. Other factors, such as overall maturity of a person and his or her ability to discern between what is good or bad, such that his personal approval or disapproval in important decisions of life become valid, must also be taken into consideration. Okay. So it says, it starts off this thing talking about purity and then goes into maturity. So then I'm like, I wonder what some prominent people in the Muslim community have to say about this. So I did that same search and I came up with this video from this guy named Dr. Zakir Naik. And he is the head of the Islamic Research Institution. And this is what he has to say on the matter.
Is marry her for her religion. So based on this, we come to know that the Prophet said, marry a virtuous girl. And similarly, a girl should marry a virtuous boy. As far as which is the best age, the moment a person reaches puberty, there's no harm Islamically, you can marry.
Pause. So he says, as far as the age that a woman should get married, he says, as long as that person has reached puberty in Islamic law, they can get married. Okay? That's what he said. It's not my words, that's Dr. Zakir. Okay? All right. So, Brandon, let's do another ChatGPT search here. Okay? Type in a new chat, what is the average age that a woman reaches puberty? Okay, Brandon. It says here, on average, girls begin puberty around age 10, but that's considered normal spans, a fairly wide range. So it says average onset 10 to 11, normal range 8 to 13, first visible signs. Let's see. So when doctors pay close attention before 8, after 13 with no signs, we consider delayed puberty. Okay. So the average age, it says, is 8 to 13. Let's take the high end, 13. Let's say a girl has reached puberty at age 13. All right, now let's go to another source here of the age of marriage, the one right next to it. Yeah. All right. So it says here, Islam didn't set any hard and strict rules for the age of bride and groom. However, there are some standards that must be followed. And then under it says, what is the age of marriage in Islam? Sharia doesn't set any fixed rule regarding a particular age of marriage for both boys and girls, but there are some criteria to follow. And then the criteria underneath it says, if the father of a minor girl gives her marriage without taking her permission, her consent, Sharia does give him such permission and authority to do so. And then it says, and we read this from a very prominent Islamic lawyer, okay? It says, and those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, basically has reached puberty and is menstruating. It says, if you have any doubts, is 3 months. So they have to wait 3 months after they start menstruating. Then it says, as Ida for 3 months has to deal with a talaq that indicates such a girl can be married or divorced. So if she's been menstruating for at least 3 months, if a 13-year-old girl, let's say on the late end, has been menstruating for at least 3 months, then under Islamic law, her father, without her consent, permission, or agency, can marry her off to a grown man to then be married. Okay? So then, my question to this guy that disagreed with me, I said, do you think that it is a good idea for our Western Christian nation of the United States of America to spread the influence of Islam more and more so that it is more commonly adopted for 13-year-olds to be married off to older men? I look at that as if an older man is marrying a 13-year-old and they are consummating that marriage, I view that as child rape. Call me crazy, call me bigoted for that, but I view that as child rape. Now let's go to the lower end of that. In some cases, girls start menstruating at 10 years old. Let's say if she reaches physical maturity at 10 years old, starts menstruating, and then 3 months later, under Islamic law, she's good to go to be married off without her permission or consent. Should we be okay with more of that influence, of that ideology, be spreading across the world? That's a question. What do you think, Brandon? Not trying to clip you here, but what do you think?
No.
No, I don't think that's a super huge controversial take, okay? And this isn't having to do anything with specifically freedom of religion and stuff like that. What happens when a religion espouses an ideology that makes it okay and normalizes adult men marrying and consummating marriages with a 13-year-old girl? That's where I see it becoming problematic, okay? Now, does that mean that that's on the platform of Zoran Mondani and stuff like that? No, what I said in the video is it's just troubling to me that this is a sign that more of Islamic influence is being had on our Western Christian nation of the United States of America. Now, if that's such a controversial take, I'm fine being controversial on that. I don't support 13-year-old girls being, in my opinion, being raped by older men because they are deemed old enough and mature enough to be married. Okay.
I think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who disagree with that.
Yeah.
Unless someone can explain the culture more, but I don't know what the culture is, and I've heard terrible things about these marriages, you know, outside of the country and the horrible things that happen to women in Islam. And I'm not making a sweeping generalization about Islam. There are case studies of these things that you should look into.
Yeah. And here's the thing. In that episode, I have a good amount of Muslim friends that I've gained over my world travels to Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, and even Muslim friends that I have in the Marine Corps. But with all of them, the other thing that I have asked them about, and I talked to Jake on this phone call about, is even the non-radical Muslims, when I've asked them, what should we do with homosexuals? How do you view homosexuality? And each of these people have told me they should be killed. Put a stone around their neck and throw them off a bridge. And I personally don't think that that is a good thing, to have that type of ideology have more influence here in the United States. I think that's abhorrent to say that we should kill homosexuals. That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. And then when you consider the way in which women are treated in Islam, they must always obey everything that their husband says. They can never deny sexual intercourse from their husband, and they're not seen as equally yoked as we see is displayed in the family of proclamation to the world. And so, in summary, with those things, I asked this person, do you think it's a good idea to have more of an Islamic influence in our country? And he wouldn't give me a straight answer. And I ask each of you, after hearing all of that, do you think it's a good idea to have more of an Islamic influence on our nation and its leaders? I personally say no. But if I'm totally up in the night and I am misreading these Muslim sources online when I just did a simple search of what age in Islam should a woman get married, if I'm misreading these Muslim sources, please help me understand, because I want to know and follow the truth. Now, does that mean that I think that we should ban Islam, people that worship in Islamic faith in the country? No, I just think that what we believe in the United States of America, freedom of religion, should be had amongst all. Now, Does that, and I already, just go watch my video on Friday, okay? I articulate it far better there, but I just wanted to give you a little recap that if you disagree with me in the comments, I would love to be educated by you and hop on a phone call, okay? Not just type in, you're an Islamophobe, all this stuff. It's like, no, I'm not. I just see an idea that is concerning, that is espoused to a certain ideology, and I think, oh, I don't want that ideology to be spread more across our nation. And I think that children should be protected, okay?
And if you read those articles, you hear us talk about it, and you feel kind of a weird feeling inside about these ideas, that's probably the Spirit teaching you that it's not of God. It's not in God's will for his young daughters to be, shipped off to some old man that they don't know to essentially rape them. I mean, seems obvious when you say it, but if you feel weird about it, that's probably the Spirit teaching you.
Yeah, maybe. Take all these things to God and do your own research, okay? Do your own research. And I love criticism on ideas. And so please share your thoughts in the comments. But I think that'll do it for today. Yeah, I think that'll do it for today. Remember, if you're not looking at the world through a gospel lens, you're only getting half the story. God bless.